Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Game Master Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is going to be my first delve into the uh, the welcome and core themes, and eventually the game mechanics of Conan the Hyborian Age RPG, which is going to go into Kickstarter in Q4 of 2024. And finally, the Conan IP is going to see itself transferred from the former holder Modifius to Monolith Games, which is a component of Heroic Signatures, which is the overall owner of the Conan the Barbarian IP, whether it be for video games, tabletop role-playing games, comic books, so on and so forth. So here we go. We're going to delve right into this, and as you can see behind me, I am a huge Robert E. Howard fan, a huge Conan the Barbarian fan, and so I was really excited to start digging into this newest iteration of a tabletop role-playing game based on one of my favorite IPs of all time. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. And let me make sure that you are looking at the same thing. Every once in a while that transition does not work as designed. So the quick start guide, and remember, all of this is subject to change, so I will be following along with this. I have already reached out to some of the creators, and waiting to hear back from them if they want to come on the channel and talk about the process of creating this and going forward. So here we go. And I specifically reached out to the cartography, one of the cartographers, Glenn Seal, who I've known for quite a number of years. And so he's going to, he passed on my email address to at least two of the creators. I'm just waiting to hear from them. So that'll be awesome to have them on the show. So welcome to an age undreamed of. All right, so I'm not going to go through the Noel Prince and go through all of that. With those words, a timeless legend of heroicism and valor was born. The story this quote appeared in was Phoenix on the Sword, penned by Robert E. Howard, called by many the greatest pulp author who ever lived. Not only was he the greatest, but he was the first. All right, so he spawned the entire genre of sword and sorcery. This tale was the first appearance of Conan of Cimmeria, a barbarian hero, and featured Conan at the peak of his career, crowned king of the greatest kingdom of the ancient and as of yet unchronicled Hyborian age. Howard not only created the barbarian archetype as it is known today, but he also created the unique combination of genres where the tales of fantasy, adventure, and horror meet. Some argue that sword and sorcery, a term coined after Howard's death by Fritz Leiber, has roots much older than 1929, but most agree that Howard's Cull story, The Shadow Kingdom, marks a reasonable starting point for this kind of storytelling, and it is this brand of storytelling that the system and themes of Conan the Hyborian Age strives to capture. Sword and sorcery stories, as Lieber meant the term, are often grounded and focused on outsider protagonists with personal goals they'll risk their hides to achieve. Gold, jewels, wine, sex, the freedom of the open road. These are the lifeblood of the Howardian protagonists. Rarely do these characters concern themselves with the epic struggle between light and dark or good versus evil. Their intentions are often mercenary and at times morally gray. That isn't to say these characters are incapable of doing the right thing or behaving heroically. It means they are likely to protect the innocent or save a kingdom only if it is on their way to reaching their own goals. Conan's stories span many genres and tones, but are always filled with the driving force of Howard's narrative style and the central figure it follows. These genres range from the sweeping desert adventure to weird horror, exploration into lost or forgotten worlds, piracy on the high seas, locked room mysteries, frontier tales, ghost stories, the stories of vengeance and mystery. Into each of these settings and tones, Conan is plunged or emerges as a central figure, and they play out to tense conclusion, with Conan always the victor or, at the very least, a survivor. It is a world of ancient and diabolical magic with alien gods and long and sometimes barely extinct races of beings. Vibrant kingdoms strive against one another, and in the frontiers and desolate spaces loom abandoned ruins of a bygone people and time, their inhabitants clinging to inscrutable practices and often diabolical rituals. It is a morally uneven world without a clear definition of good, but all too real manifestations of evil. Demons and horrific beings of lesser aspect prey upon the meek, and everywhere is defined by the intensifying struggle between the civilization and primitivism, order versus barbarism, the gentle versus the bold. There is little doubt which side of this equation Howard's sympathies lie, though the author's fatalism is tempered with an appreciation for the pleasures that the civilized world affords his greatest literary creation. Conan is thus the epitome of the world and the Hyborian age he inhabits, an uncultured barbarian who nonetheless uses his sharp intellect, superhuman strength and prowess, and keen instincts to master every situation he finds himself in, besting nearly every foe he comes up against, save for those who simply cannot be slain by mortal means. Conan's adventures, in some ways, are all thrillers, gripping tales of survival and relentless willpower against great and seemingly unconquerable odds. Conan's era is filled with thieves, rogues, pirates, beasts, demons, aliens, gods and goddesses, warriors, sorcerers, and megalomaniacal military leaders. Unlike much popular fantasy, magic in the Hyborian Age is rare. While many of the original Conan stories feature magic, it is never well understood or commonplace. Sorcery also seems to come at the cost to the wielder, the landscape, or some poor sacrifice, be it a person or beast. The Hyborian Age. This quick start for Conan the Hyborian Age presents a setting drawing primarily from Howard and extrapolating little as possible from the pastiche material, where necessary, detail crafted in a Howardian spirit has been provided, but never contradicts anything from the original stories, nor suggests themes or content inconsistent with Howard's vision. This is far from Conan's first appearance in a tabletop game, but Conan the Hyborian Age presents a fresh take on the material and on gameplay with easily understood rules and focus on the adventurers themselves, letting the everyone work together to spin yarn after yarn of high adventure without being limited by rules and references. The themes of this game are heroic and fast, pulpish action and adventure, exciting battles in evocative settings, and flexible character development. The game attempts to stick close to the tone of Conan's stories, with a focus on dramatic conflict versus deep world immersion, with the player characters always front and center. I'm not going to get into what a role-playing game is because, we go over this over and over again, but let's see where this stands out, if anywhere. No, it's all about the same. So, the core themes of this game. So let's get this down. Conan the Hyborian Age has been crafted with the following principles in mind, design pillars that informed every step of the rules development and content creation. Adventure. Above all, this game is about fast and frenetic adventure, emulating the exhilarating momentum of Howard's stories. Big risk versus big reward. Fortune favors the bold, they say, and gameplay is designed to encourage risk-taking, dramatic action, and immediate rewards in the form of gold and glory. Sword and sorcery. This game is first and foremost a sword and sorcery game. That unique flavor of heroic fantasy and adventure should revolve around opportunities for dazzling swordplay, often directed at diabolical magic. Forward momentum. Stories should never falter while characters don't know what to do, and even a loss is more a temporary setback, opening new avenues for advancement. Whenever a question emerges in gameplay that the rules don't cover, the game master and players should determine the outcome based on those gameplay pillars, ensuring a consistent and enjoyable experience for all. I really like that because it's like when in doubt, does it enhance adventure? Does it support risk versus reward? Is it still bound in sword and sorcery concepts? And is there a forward momentum to keep the story moving forward? So I like that. As with all rules, however, there are exceptions and convincing examples to the contrary. The core themes may be ignored entirely, I would disagree with that, or fully embraced to help set the game session apart from more generic types of fantasy. All right, so I certainly disagree with that. If these are your founding principles, the core themes, then there should never be an instance where they may be ignored entirely. You're not playing the same game then. So that I hope they remove because it's just wrong concept. Adventure is the key component to many Conan stories and fundamental to sword and sorcery genre. Players should embody characters who wish to feel the wind in their hair, or even those willing to push beyond the threshold of the material world into the mysteries of the hells or the outer dark. A proper Hyborian Age protagonist should have an insatiable lust for life and all its possibilities. They should be willing to risk sin and soul to do whatever it is that makes them feel alive. Whether they desire gold, respect lost sorcery, or just to seize their own freedoms, characters in this game should welcome risk if the reward is of sufficient allure. So dice and other materials I'm not going to get into that. I will get more into it with the when I go into the actual play of it. The game primarily uses the following: D6, D8, D10. All right, so but there are also D4, D12, and D20. So you're 7 die, basically. Um, but again, I will spend more time with that. Now, I know some people have already mentioned this, and I'm going to take a look at the safety and player comfort. All right. And some of you might find my take on this to be, a little surprising if you know me well enough. But so here we go. Though the original Conan stories are frequently lurid and occasionally veer into uncomfortable stereotypes of race and culture, there is no reason that the tabletop experience needs to mirror these elements. Fine. If you don't want to go into into, let's say, slavery or some other kind of racial stereotype that the characters in Conan the Barbarian original stories might have also held, then it's really up to your table to make that decision. The game master and the player should establish the boundaries of comfort for the content and behavior within the game, identifying any potentially troublesome aspect that will make players uncomfortable at the risk of spoiling their enjoyment of the game. Again, if it's a discussion you're having at your table for your table, that's fine. Various methods exist for establishing table rules, whether safety tools such as X cards, which I would never use personally, that can be shown when the subject should be dropped. No subject, just talk about this ahead of time, and there should never be a reason to drop a subject. Player checklists of undesirable topics, again, not a checklist, a discussion. Or simple conversations before play about potentially problematic subjects. Not everyone has the same limits, and these should be respected equally. Sure. That respected equally, it depends on, it depends on what their actual issue is. Respect isn't always an equal thing in the sense that you don't have to respect certain ideas equally. And that's all I'm going to say on that. If a player doesn't want to experience scenes of torture, cruelty, degradation, racism, sexism, or something less obvious, the game master and the other players should respect that and adjust the gameplay accordingly. That's where I kind of disagree in the sense that it really depends on what they're pushing back on, what they're finding an objection to. If you're objecting to, and I've seen this before, I've seen where people have said, hey, I don't like, I have an aversion to the potential descriptions of blood, or or let's say it's just like I never want to hear about or have to be put in a position where I have to kill an animal or something along those lines, and so I don't want sharp weapons or any kind of an encounter where we're fighting animals. That is a major hindrance to actually running this game. And so that player is just not well suited for this particular game. And so it's not a matter of, well, we're not going to respect your views and we're going to force you to deal with these things, at the table. That's where that player has to respect everyone else's desire to play this game as it's designed, and to step away, to freely step away from, playing this. Now, they don't have to step away from the player group if this is their regular group, they'll just say, well, when we're playing something else, I'll gladly come back. But while you're playing this, I don't want to be involved with it. That is the true compromise that should be taken here, is that, and again, I have actually seen people say, I don't like depictions of, or even the imagination of bloodletting, and so I don't want sharp objects to be used, not just by my character, but by anybody else in the group. That's just not a reasonable thing. Or better yet, my analogy with the, I don't want to be put in a position of harming animals. Well, animals are a main encounter that's usually, the potential for either hunting or combat, that the that just exists in tabletop role-playing games, especially fantasy-based tabletop role-playing games. So, I don't mind so much that they have this in here just to talk about it in a very generic way. I think that I would have changed a few things to say. Though the original Conan stories are frequently lurid and blah, 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 they do not match today's, today's sensibilities or today's whatever. I think when you put it this way, the way that they have it though, not to the extent that like Wizards of the Coast does, but they're not putting it out there that for this genre of game, for this content, for this particular game, those elements are expected. All right, they are part of the lore and the theme and what the Hyborian Age was all about. But if you don't choose to have that, if you don't want that in your particular expression when you're running this game, you're free to remove those elements. So I would have couched this, whole concept a little bit differently, but and certainly put it in the proper context that we are, we're looking at this, over 90 years later, after this whole genre was created, and then we're using our own view of things, but applying them to 90 years ago. And so it's not a fair comparison, and it's not a fair expectation that, that, oh, well, that was bad, that was wrong, and instead we're going to, we're going to make it better, and we're better than, those old views kind of thing. So I would certainly, this is not as bad as I've seen for safety and player comfort, and safety rules and such, but it certainly needs to be a little bit more accommodating of the theme, I would say. So I'm going to switch back over to here. So there's my introduction of this. I dealt with the welcome into the, to the Hyborian Age RPG and its core themes, and touched a little bit on its safety tools and everything, and how I would have possibly tweaked that. I really liked the core themes overall, although I completely disagree with them. That's hey, you can just discard the core themes if that's not what you want to do. That's never a good idea. It's not going to lead to, to anyone properly playing the game as it's designed. So I would certainly change that wording in that particular part. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I welcome your comments in the comments section, and as always, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell in particular, because that will tell you when the next episode will come up, which will be probably within a day or two. I'll probably do like a whole bunch of videos today and then spread them out over the week. So this one's going to go live probably within the next hour or two, and then the next Conan Hyborian Age will come out tomorrow, and so on until I fully cover the quick start rules over the next that you will view over the next week and a half or so. All right. Thanks for everyone for stopping in. Have a great day and take care.